going to stand next to him?
Wherever you want. You can sit. Well, I'm the only one on mic.
You're the only one on mic.
So I'll introduce myself. Or do you want to be mic'd?
No.
I can mic you.
Sit
down, relax. I'll talk. Okay, folks. I'm going to chat for a bit here. And I'm going to stand right here because there'll be a camera. I think this camera here is on me, so I'm going to wave to the community. And Jake Miller, he's on the computer in that room controlling the sound and the mic. And then there's also another camera here in the center, the one closer on that pole. And that might be trained down to the birdhouse sculpture down there. And then there's a third camera focused probably on the ospreys right now and not on me, which is a good thing. So thank you for everybody for coming. And I'm going to talk a little bit about Dunrovin because I know some of you it might be a new place to them. And then I'll talk a little bit about what I've done here. But I first want to thank Suzanne, Sterling, and Jake on the camera there. Miller, they're the owners and they make all this happen. And I really appreciate you having me here and inviting me here. Okay.
I'll just come right up next
Okay.
to you.
Yeah, come right next to me.
Yeah, this is great. This has been a first. And I don't know what came into my head to think of an artist in residence in the wintertime, other than probably hanging out with Valerie too much. But this has been such fun because nobody knew what you were going to do. And so it was just something that unfolded for all of us. And the people on the camera got to watch and participate. You and Jamie talked through many of the things that you were doing. So it was just a great pleasure for us to see somebody's creativity come alive and to make us look at our own ranch differently. And I have found great success in your art. It has done that, and I really appreciate it. And I'm really looking forward to some of our summer guests riding past some of the art and sparking conversations. So thank you.
Good to hear.
It was wonderful.
Wonderful.
You were great.
See if I can get this back on here. That feels on. And then I also want to thank Jamie for she's kind of the ranch manager, all knowing everything. So every time I've had a question or concern or anything, you've helped me out. So I really appreciate you've always been there helping me out. And then also Dave Trullo, I know you were a big part of kind of thinking about should we do this or having that conversation, and you thought of me being a good fit for the kind of the first official resident. So I appreciate you doing that as well. And then I also appreciate everyone coming out here and looking at some art. So so I talked about the cameras briefly for a second. I'll talk about them again because I think that's a interesting part of the ranch and also potentially how I saw my time here and what I made. And so again, Suzanne, you'd be able to talk about this a lot clearer than I am, but I'm going to go quickly, and if I mess up, that's all right, I think. But this camera started, I believe at some point it started on the osprey nest and the interest in a community around watching and documenting these ospreys. And I thought it was Harvard or maybe it was a different university. Cornell has, I believe, cameras focused on all these different types of bird nests all over the world. And there's community of people researching and following these birds. And there's a large, very, very large community in the millions watching these birds. And that through that community, the interest in people started being interested in what happened in Dunrovin, I think past the birds potentially. The horses, the people visiting, and everything else that I'm maybe not aware of. And then these other cameras started coming into play. So that we have the middle camera, the kind of the one closest to us, that goes around in a 360, pretty much on a program that kind of is looking at what's going on. This camera here is their mobile camera, which can be taken other places to kind of get a closer look at things. It usually lives there and gets looks at the these bird feeders there, but right now it's trained on me. So so one of the reasons I was here was to build content or interest in people that are on the community, having the conversations about what's going on here, but other things in their life. to have something for them to look at and be part of and have a conversation with. And so one thing, what I did was twice a week, I would be on camera, up, putting a stake in the ground or something and talking about what I was doing and having that interaction with people out there was very different experience than I think most people have. But also as an artist, I work fairly independently and by myself, and so having one talking it out and having this kind of community that I don't see, I don't really interact, and it's not necessarily an art community, so having that kind of interaction, I'm not sure which estate, but it was just very interesting and kind of a interesting path to go through. So right now I'm mic'd, and people are potentially out there watching what I'm talking about and maybe seeing everybody here, and they might even have questions, but we'll see how that works. So here we go. So some of you got to look at some of the work that I made out here. You'll see there's the, I don't really have any names for any of these, which I probably should have thought of before I came here and gave a talk, but I'm calling this the sculpture back here minimal birdhouses. So modern architecture, but more than modern architecture, I think they're minimal architectural models for houses that I want to build and have been designing in my head for decades now. And so I felt that considering birds were such a large part of the ranch, it would be fitting that I made the bird houses. But also, my father is a birder.
That's affiliated woodpecker comment.
There, thank you. My father's a birder, so growing up, my father has been looking and staring up my whole life, and so I've been around someone observer, but also observer of sounds and so forth of birds, and so that's my dad has built birdhouses for birds, so that's a part of kind of how I think. The other thing is you'll see these three kind of gold beacons, I'm calling them. They're made from blue foam that's inside, but they're wrapped with emergency blankets. And the second thing is I grew up in the Bay Area, where NASA has a wind tunnel and a large presence, military presence there in Mountain View. So space travel and the technologies and so forth that are part of our lives, a lot of them have been developed because of the extremes and the travel of, I'm trying to get out of the smoke, the travels of space. And so travel and technology and modernism is a big theme and things I think about. And so that's partly why that is wrapped in that material. And then there's the third kind of piece that some people might have seen that's kind of hidden back to everyone's left is I see this kind of like a window or framing the environment, and I think all this stuff kind of frames the environment. And so I'll end it with this, is that the last thing I think of quite a bit about with my work is travel, or the exploring, or the journey to a location is integral in the actual location or how I perceive that space and that landscape. And so if it's framing just through my own eyeballs and framing what my lens is, or if it's framing from a camera lens and seeing a picture of that space, or framing from these cameras that are on us right now, I find that very, very interesting to kind of explore those spatial relations. I feel like I've been talking for 25 minutes, probably only 5 minutes, but that's all I want to say right now. But I would love some questions. But I think I didn't mention that I really enjoyed my time here, and I didn't want to leave that out. That I've had a wonderful time, and there's so many new things that I had to think about because I've never made I've never really made sculptures outside. I've never really made sculptures on someone else's property. I've never made things that have to work with elements and water and wind and horses and all these kind of things, that is really interesting to think about and try to explore through my art practice. So I would love a question or two or three at this point. We can keep.
What happens if the water comes up and flows over that area? Flows over the riparian?
Well, so there might be some concerns you have that I haven't thought of.
No, I don't have any concerns. I'm worried about the art.
Oh, well, okay. So so my I have a few concerns which I kind of touched on before when I make art. One, my biggest concern is my biggest thinking is my visual interactions with the built environment, i.e. sculptures or architecture within a landscape. And so I'm trying to create an interesting visual experience for myself, and hopefully other people have that as well. So that's the kind of the top of the list. Second is maybe the material choices add content through building materials like blue foam or space blankets or things like that. Might add another layer of ideas. And then third, or maybe even third, is maybe does it stay up for a while and people can look at it for a while. And then way down the list is like how long will it stay up. And I never really thought about how long something would be up. I believe if water went through and it was at a not very fast pace, but fast, the stakes are in down there. The stakes are in 2 feet. They're all staked 2 feet in. That one staked 2 feet into the ground as well. I don't think it will affect the water. I think wind, animals, those kind of things, big log, I don't know. I'm not sure.
And it's fine, whatever.
Oh, yeah. So the way I would like to leave it, and we haven't quite nailed down exactly how these live here. But what I would like to see is, where I place them in this landscape, I think suits them very well, and I like them where they are. But all of them have, I believe, a shelf life of how pristine or how they look today. And so I would like them not to be a bother on you, but at some point, if they get a hole in them or they fall down or whatever, I'd like them to be kind of chopped up, and you have a nice, good-sized dumpster over there, and they end their life in the landfill. That's kind of how I like to see them. And so they live in memory. They live in the talk today. They live in photographs. They live in text through conversation. And then that's how they finish their life.
So it's kind of performance art. A little bit.
Life. I think life is performance. I think each one of us is having our own performance. But yeah.
So that piece looks the most stable and the most solid. And I'm curious about whether or not that's true. And then I asked you earlier about color, so I'd like you to say something about color maybe, in terms of your decisions about color.
Yeah. Well, the stable question.
It looks solid.
Yeah, I think it is solid. I think it could be more solid. But again, the aesthetics of it, I think it looks perfect. So it does have a little bit of movement to it. It has stakes in it. It's not going to be picked up. And I think it would take, I don't know how many pounds of force, but to knock it over. That being said, I don't know.
I mean, that one looks so much more.
Yeah, I think it actually probably has a similar. No, it's probably more stable, because it's not as tall and it's heavy and all that. But it probably has a similar strength to it. All these kind of do. Color-wise, I think conceptually colors, I kind of haven't really thought too much about that. So for me, it's more of an aesthetic choice. I've worked mostly with white, and then I added this blue color because that's from the the rigid blue foam that people put in their walls for construction projects. So I think color-wise and material choice, it has ideas and content there. But I've been fascinated with color. I've always loved color, especially if color is framed by kind of an absence of it or a quietness. And so this was my kind of investigation or trying out some color. I really love soft and quiet and pastel-y colors. So so I liked yellow. I'm not sure, but I told you the reason. I'll just tell you where I got the color. I was ordering a new moleskin planner, like a year-long planner, and usually they're black or something. But they had this wonderful orange one, and I was like, oh, that or yellow one. And so I ordered the yellow, and I loved it, and it was just like it had a nice, cause that moleskin kind of have this texture to it. And so I just brought it into Lowe's, and they color matched it, and it's actually pretty close to it. So, and then, yeah, in a way, another company figured it out for me.
You know, Tyler, I think many people here know you, but the people on the webcam don't know you. So perhaps you could talk a little bit about your background and your training and your plans for your profession.
Okay, I can do that. I was born and raised just south of San Francisco in Mountain View, California, where Google lives and Facebook and all those kind of things are right there. Like I said earlier, NASA was there, or is, well, that's another question. But anyways, they're there. And my dad's a biologist, so he's a birder, and he leads trips all over the world for natural history trips. My mother is a nurse, a registered nurse and an educator. I have one older brother. I taught swimming for years, so I think sports and like spatial relations kind of have been very integral of like how I talk with my hands, right? So like this is a big part of how I like understand things in my environment. And then so then I did this and that. And then I finished my undergrad in art at San Francisco State University a few years ago. And at the time I was making sculptures, but mostly out of ceramics. But I always knew I wanted to make sculptures, and it didn't necessarily need to be defined by a material. But I didn't quite know how to say that years ago. So I was looking for a graduate program that was interdisciplinary. And I found it here at the University of Montana. So I ended up here about 4 years ago and started my graduate degree and finished last May. And I've been kind of around for the last 8 months or so. I've been teaching at the University of Montana Western. Last fall, taught a few courses. I'll be going back there in a couple weeks to teach another course. And I've been down here, which is fantastic. So I've been kind of piecing things together. I'm fairly actively applying to jobs, teaching jobs or lab art-related kind of jobs all over the United States. So the future is a little bit, or it's extremely up in the air. But I feel very positive about where I am right now. So is that good? Does that work for you? Cool. Yeah. What do you think?
I want to know if Suzanne's going to get you on the back of the horse.
I would like that. Well, when are you going to get me back on the back of a horse? And then I think maybe this summer sometime. It's work great.
Well, I'm wondering, our horses use this area. Yeah, I'm wondering too. Yeah. What I think we'll do is put electric fence around it so that the horses don't bother. That won't be a problem. I don't think there. The only piece that I have any issues with at all is the one that's in what we call the runway. And the horses do run in the runway. And it could be dangerous for the horses because they fight in the runway. They hustle and they back up. So we may have to move that ultimately. We won't until we have to. But I particularly like that one. For one reason, when you come up, I should be talking next to so people can hear on the
camera. Everybody knows me on the camera. I'm talking about the piece in the runway. I love that because every morning I walk up the runway, and there's a point at which that's all you see. It's like an obelisk, and it's really beautiful. And I do this in the mornings. I'm sorry that we've lost our snow, because it was particularly beautiful with all of the snow around it. It was really lovely. And the other thing I like about these gold, what are you calling them, Tyler?
Pillar or
Pillars?
beacons. I think it was beacons because
All
it's
right.
like finding or like a destination. Or
Yeah. In fact, I had that same thought about destination as, you know, the people in the far north of the world in the Arctic Circle have what are called, help me out here, Inukjuks, which are made of stone, and there's no cement or anything in them. And there's no relief in the Arctic, and so the Native Americans build these Inukjuks in the form of a man, and they're welcoming. They're pointing the way. They are, so when the hunter is out, it's a sign of humanity. It's a sign that you're welcome here, and it's a sort of used for a variety of cultural things. And I do think that having something so unexpected, so out of place, tells you something about the character of who we are, and I like that. And I did encounter our first two people who had no idea what we were doing. I mean, everyone who's on at Dunrovin recently understands who you are and what you've been doing. But 2 mornings ago, I went for a walk, and I ran into 2 fishermen on the river. And they were just down over here. And I had been walking over there with my camera so that I could take pictures of what you're calling the birdhouses from different angles. And they're really interesting as you get away from them. Vegetation is between you and them, so they kind of peek out. They peek out of the willows, or they peek among the cottonwoods. At any rate, the 2 fishermen, I ran into these 2 fishermen, and they saw me doing this. They said, "What the heck is that anyway?" So I had my first conversation that was prompted by the art piece, and I look forward to lots of those, because for me, the really fun thing is to have things that are just out of place, juxtaposed, and it causes people to stop and pause and think and ask questions. And I think that's going to be the fun of having somebody on horseback ride by and say, "Well, what is this?" And we can ask back, "Well, what do you want it to be?"
Right.
And I'm looking forward to that immensely.
It's good to hear.
Yeah.
I'm excited.
Yeah, I am too.
End it there, or one more? Well, I'll be here all day, so if anyone has any more questions for me.
Maybe we should sign off. And let
Should we
Dave
sign
go
off?
up. Yeah.
Okay.
Okay. Thanks to everybody for joining us this afternoon. I do think Jamie needs to come up and say hello. Everybody knows Jamie. And Jamie has been such an enormous help on all of this, both for today and the whole process. Jamie's just done an outstanding job. So.
Well, I appreciate Tyler coming out and being a part of this. I was hoping to get out of talking because I like to do the behind-the-scenes stuff and not be up front and center. So, but thank you everybody for coming, and thank you Tyler. It's been really fun being a part of this. I had no idea what an artist-in-resident program was or what it looked like, and with your help and Dave's help, I think we've put something really fun together, and have kind of paved the way to allow more artists in the future, and see what happens with the next person, or whatever, your art. So thank you for coming out, and thank you everyone for being here on the camera and in person, and
Thank you.
I really appreciate it.
Sign us off, Jay.
Bye-bye. Thank you.